What's going on, guys? This is a spiritual experience, and this video is, as I said before, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch my video about how to change your perspective to multiple perspectives. This video is about a really good example of how to do this. It's the latest video that I did besides this one. So, if you go to my channel, there's one after this one. So what's this video about? This video is about how to really make some changes to healthcare that would actually work. And these are by no means definitive, by the way. These aren't perfect ideas. These are ideas that I've gathered together by looking through all the ideas that I've seen through the years, all the ideas given to me by like libertarians, conservatives, socialists, Democrats, pretty much any type of like politician you'll ever hear of. And there's other types of stuff like that I can talk about. And the reason why I'm giving you this example right here that I'm going to give you is because this is an example to show you how using multiple perspectives can really like redefine how you look at the world, how the world is. It makes you see things in a different way. Because when you use multiple perspectives, when you see the kernel of truth in every perspective, and you use that kernel of truth to form a new multi-perspective perspective, you see that not everything, nothing is really that simple. But not just that, but things that seem really difficult at the same time aren't really that difficult if you try and look at them with multiple perspectives. The problem that most politicians and politics has is that they look at things from only one or two perspectives, at most 3 or 4. But I'm going to give you a way to deal with healthcare that has like 6 or 7 perspectives, 8 or 9. Some of them I've actually created myself. So how do you and like I said, this is by no means a definitive guide, but this is just a preliminary guide on how easy it is to just change the healthcare system in this country. So we'll start off with this. There's a difference between, before we get started, there's a difference between single-payer healthcare and universal healthcare. Single-payer healthcare means that one organization pays for healthcare, like the government. Universal healthcare means that it's paid for. You can pay for it with private insurance, multiple private insurances, and you can pay for some of it yourself. And the reason why I think this is a better option. By the way, I'm not saying the government shouldn't be involved in this process, but it shouldn't be the only people involved in this process. What it should be is like, I guess I'm starting, so. Like I said, the differences between single-payer healthcare and universal healthcare is just like I said. Universal healthcare is paid for with many different other ways besides like government and one organization and stuff like that. Usually with single-payer healthcare, it's paid for. All healthcare bills are paid for by the government, and that's not necessarily realistic. But I do agree with some kind of basic emergency service healthcare. Because a a lot of libertarians and socialists have this problem where they say we need all healthcare, and libertarians will say we need no healthcare paid for by the government. I think there's a more balanced approach. We need healthcare that is that can be paid for by the government if you're poor, or if you have like emergency services that you like. I mean, the emergency services should be like dealt with by the government, by private organizations, by like charities or something like that. Like the problem with just using the government to pay for all these things is that you'll find that it stagnates the system. And what I mean by this is that the government doesn't have the way to put this is the government can't do it all because it's just too expensive for just the government to kind of deal with it all because it's too complicated. It's too complicated for one organization or thing to deal with it. That, and not just that, but you do not want the government controlling this. It's too powerful for the government. They could use it, abuse it, or some other thing, which is what regulation is going to be for. And so, what you need is something like the government can be like the main supporting system that supports this healthcare, if not by paying for it, but by making some kind of regulation for like medications and stuff like that. And private insurance and charities and stuff like that can help with like things that aren't emergencies or things that are emergencies. Like the monetary problems can be spread out besides using the government. It can be used paid for by you, by me, by like whoever uses it, to some extent by the government, by private insurance, by all kinds of like other groups or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be all the government. It can be all kinds of other people as well. And that's how you deal with the most basic emergency services. That's what I think that should be done, because a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is to get health care, how expensive it is to pay for health care, especially when it's like an emergency or with certain medications and stuff like that, like expensive medications and emergency services and medications that like your life would almost like depend on it. Like those things should be like done with universal health care. The rest can be kind of dealt with by yourself. So that's what I mean by multi-perspectival. So, and the other part of this is education. What the government should do, and the government doesn't have to be the only one to do this, but the government would be like I said, the main supporting character of this, but is to send out pamphlets, educational pamphlets on how your health works, how you can fix your health, and how to deal with this stuff, how to deal with like stress in your mind, because you have no idea how much stress actually affects your body. I mean, people say that stress affects your body, but they have no idea how much it actually affects your body. Oh, some people do, but it's so pervasive in a lot of illnesses, and that's what pamphlets are before. Just tell people how to deal with these stresses, how to manage your time, how to do all these things. You see what I mean? Like, the government shouldn't be, and in this way you can kind of balance the system. And when it comes to like expensive pills and stuff like this, you definitely have to stop like a lot of this a lot of this stuff is a lot of these pills that are expensive are um, made by billion-dollar corporations, million-dollar corporations who are greedy enough to, and it's not necessarily that they're greedy, but they're business and they're trying to make as much money as they can, even if that means hurting people who depend on life-saving medicines and stuff like that. So that would be like what the government would do. And another thing those pamphlets would be good for is to the pamphlets would have like advertisements from insurance companies and other health companies to find like the cheapest. Those advertisements would be used to help you find the cheapest and easiest product to use for like health. And that's why the competition would be, because it is necessary to some extent. I think competition with cooperation is a good idea. The problem we have now is that we have too much. We have capitalism run amok in the healthcare system. That's never a good idea when it comes to life-saving or life-destroying situations. And that's the problem with certain capitalism. That's the problem with capitalism when it's unchecked, which it is right now in the healthcare system, because people don't realize that it can be changed, and it can be a balanced change. So, what's the other thing that could be done? Those are like the main things that I've thought of on my own, and these aren't even these are just preliminary things. Like, if I think about this long enough, I could come up with a whole system like this. So this is what I mean by multiperspectival. If you're multiperspectival, you can do this with healthcare. You can read into how your mind works by many, many, many different from many perspectives, and come up with your own kind of multi-perspective, and you can see how it can be used in your own life. Because if you don't think about these things, if you don't try and figure out these things in your own life, like I said, it doesn't have to be politics. It can be any number of things. Like I said, like psychology or sociology, like anything you desire, like many different points of view about something is good, because a lot of times, especially sometimes even in science and stuff, there's it's a lot of these things are based on perspectives. Like, a lot of scientists have this classical materialistic worldview, even though they don't admit it's a classical materialistic worldview. Well, they'll admit it's a materialistic worldview, but they won't admit it's a worldview. But it is a worldview. It's and when people question their worldview and they try and show them that this is kind of their own belief system, they get dogmatic and they start getting triggered and all this stuff, because they don't realize how deeply involved in their own perspective they are. And like I said, this isn't a bad thing. It's a necessary thing, at least at first. But eventually you're gonna have to wake up and say, maybe this isn't working. A lot of the problems that we have in the world is because of this perspective lock, as I call it. Basically, when people are locked into one or two different perspectives on things, we're locked into a worldview, a paradigm lock. And that's not really a good way to look at things. And when you do that, you limit yourself to other ideas and perspectives that may actually work just as good, or maybe better, or maybe not work, but maybe have something that you missed that could add more perspective to your perspective. So you can get. So usually, what I mean by multi-perspectival. You get like all kinds of different things here, and this is how you can find a deeper way of looking at life, and this is how I try and look at things, because looking at things in a simple way that politicians and everybody, most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people look at the way a lot of people look at things is causing problems, because it's too simplistic, and it's messing up things, because some of those parts of that simplistic thing do not work. They're not actually helping at all. They're causing some problems, and we need to start, like, this is a problem with a lot of materialists and people like that, because they'll admit that quantum physics exists, but they don't understand or seem to get that quantum physics is literally like beyond materialism. It like almost disproves it, because it shows you a way different way of looking at things. But they'll say but they'll try and encapsulate quantum physics in their classical materialistic worldview, which doesn't really work. I mean, it can work, but it doesn't really get to the heart of what quantum physics is. I might do an episode on quantum physics, although that will be a complicated episode to do, because it is a complicated subject that's not really gone over. It's a lot of the deeper aspects are ignored for materialism and classical scientific worldviews like Newtonian physics, stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with these. By the way, there's nothing wrong with these ideas of classical Newtonian physics. They're useful in their time, but they're not the only thing there is. It's not the only scientific thing there is. So that's what I mean by using multiple perspectives. This is how you, when you start doing this, you'll start realizing that not all worldviews are not. Your worldview doesn't have all the answers, and neither will doing the multi-perspective thing give you all the answers, but it'll give you I think it'll give you a closer look on how the world can be run. It could give you like a vision of the future that, if it was followed, it may actually be better than the vision that is now. Like I said, a lot of the problems stem from perspective lock. This is why politics is so polarized right now, because people don't realize that their perspective isn't always correct, and they defend it sometimes to the death. So I know this was a bit long and kind of like very deep, but it's just to show you how valuable this tool is. So it may be very controversial for some people. That's fine. If you want to like comment and tell me why you don't like it, that's good. I like comments so that I can kind of get a perspective. Maybe I have something wrong here. I don't know. That's another thing too. When you do this perspective, and you do come up with your own perspective based on all these perspective worldview kernels of truth that you find. Don't get attached to it. Don't get invested in it. Just think of it as like something you think is a good idea, but not something that's like, a lot of times when people have a perspective on something like conservatism or libertarianism or whatever, something that they like, it's like, this is the best idea. This may not necessarily be what you should do. Instead of say, this may not be the best idea necessarily, but it seems to be the best idea that I know of. There could be better, and there could be a lot better, and that That's how you can get beyond your own perspective and try and find new and exciting ways of finding connections in life, and that this is how you find, like, this is like when you live like this, it's almost like a mystery. You almost have to like solve the mystery, like what perspective am I missing here? And like I said, I'm not perfect at this. I'm still learning how to do this with other stuff besides like politics, and even with some politics, like I'm trying to figure out how many different perspectives can make like one big huge perspective. So anyways, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe so that other people can get the same benefits as you did. And I hope you did like this video. If you didn't, please comment letting me know why, so that I can say that you're wrong or right. Maybe you'd be right on something. So like I said, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. I might do another one today, who knows. Anyways, this is a spiritual experience, and I'll see you in the next video.